Hey guys, Zer0 here, doing something a little different for you all. Usually, me and my buddies Leo and Legend tend to get together and talk our asses off about Pokemon. While this is often pretty fun, we also don't want to just keep sticking to Pokemon all the damn time. We kind of want to also branch out and talk about some other games. So, to kick things off, I'm going to be talking about the latest game that I just finished playing, Bravely Default, the latest game from Square Enix. You know, the one besides that god-awful Final Fantasy XIII sequel. Ugh. God damn it, Square! I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, You know what? Let's move away from that rage fuel. Let's move away. I'm going to talk about Bravely Default. Okay then, I'm going to try to keep this review mostly spoiler-free since I'm pretty sure that not everyone's had a chance to play the game yet. So, with that in mind, let's get down to business. The story starts off pretty basic with the 4 crystals of fire, water, earth, and wind having become enveloped in darkness, and it's up to the 4 heroes of light and a fairy to go out and fix them. It sounds pretty straightforward, but it quickly starts to talk about ideas of warring religions, conflicting ideals, showing how you can't see the world as black and white, good and evil, yada yada yada, you get my point. And to be honest, I kind of found that rather enjoyable. It's a surprisingly deep story with a few plot twists that you really won't see coming if you're not expecting them. There are 2 possible endings for this game, but I won't spoil that for you because I feel this is a game you need to play for yourself. Now I'll admit that the game's story isn't super grandiose, it's basically the plot of the first 6 Final Fantasies. But, I don't have a problem with that. It's a classic story and a throwback to the old games, and it's both enjoyable and easy to understand. Unlike that goddamn Final Fantasy XIII, goddammit, I'll give it to you! Oops. Sorry back there. Everything just went red with rage and I kinda went a little crazy. Anyway, moving on. The characters of this game are probably one of the best parts, in all honesty, each one being unique in personality and style. And throughout the game, you get to learn more and more about them. And I'm not just talking about the main characters here, but also the bosses. You see, you get to meet them multiple times, and as you fight them, they also get stronger with you, and eventually you get to fight them in different combinations. Some actually proving so devastating, I actually felt that they were harder than the final boss. But that's another story. Anyway, the main characters are Tiz the farm boy, Anye the priestess, Adia the soldier's daughter, and Ringabel the amnesiac, and oh god almighty Ringabel. Ringabel, Ringabel, Ringabel. In all honesty, this guy puts Leo to shame in terms of perversion. Think about that for a moment. This guy puts Leo to shame. And on the subject of Ringabel, it's about time I brought up some of the other characters' names. And, oh god, do some of these names have some really facepalm-worthy puns? For example, the monk character's name is Barrislair. Barrislair. Just let that name roll off your tongue for a few minutes and you'll know what I'm talking about. And to be even more obvious, the Black Mage's name is Ominous Crow. Ominous Crow. I swear to god that sounds like the name of a crappy metal band, for god's sakes. And while I'm on the subject, the Templar's name, who also happens to be Adia's dad, his name, and I kid you not, Brave Lee. Brave Lee. And his wife's name is Mazar Lee. Bravely and Motherly. The puns. Ugh, god dang it. Leo would be proud. But despite the horrendous names, the characters are actually pretty interesting and fun to fight, if a bit annoying to kill at times. The voice acting in English is pretty good. The voice direction, on the other hand, it leaves something to be desired. And in all honesty, I had the whole game set to the Japanese voices, and they were pretty good. I would recommend you listen to the game with them. However, if you're in the mood for some good old-fashioned cheesy dialogue, go ahead and use the English voices. They're still pretty good. Now with that done, let's move on to our next topic. The battle mechanics were actually my favorite part. It's a typical turn-based RPG, except for a few mechanics that they added which only seem to heighten the strategy in the gameplay. To start off, we have the Brave and the Default commands. At the beginning of each turn, you get a battle point that you can use for either attacking, magic items, whatever action you want to use that turn. But when you default, you defend without using up that battle point and you take less damage. You can then store up to 3 of these battle points. Now the second half of this is the Brave ability, where you can use the battle point to get an extra movement in your turn, upwards up to 4 actions. So you can attack up to 4 times, or attack then heal, or set up a barrier, or honestly any number of combinations. Not only that, but certain moves require that you use a specific number of BP to use them. You can even Brave without using battle points though, but if you do that, your BP goes into the negatives, and you cannot act until your BP resets to 0. The strategy doesn't end there, as the bosses can also use Brave and Default commands, and it becomes a strategy game to try to figure out if they will use an all-out massive attack or end up guarding. It's amazing how much you have to think in these fights and figure out just what exactly is happening. It makes each turn important to the player and gives them an amazing amount of control. There are also special moves which, when utilized, cause a song to start playing that imbues your entire party with a power boost for as long as the song is running. So you could gain a crit boost or healing boost in battle. Not only that, but if you activate another special while the song is still playing, the effects of the old song will be added to the new song. So this game helps to reward fast thinking, and if you're really good, you can actually chain multiple songs together and lay waste to your enemies. Also, you can mix and match the traits of your special attacks by giving them elemental affinities, or even monster slaying skills, or better healing for your entire party. You can also change the names of your attacks and the shouts that they say at the end of each attack for some nice custom flair. Of course, these moves are also based upon which weapons or job you have equipped at the moment. Speaking of which, the job system in this game is very intuitive. Every job has a purpose. Every job can be used, and each one has their own unique skills, and once you learn them, you can mix and match those skills with other job classes to increase your battle potential and strategy. For example, my Spirit Master, who also had White Magic equipped, had the Angelic Ward ability, which is a random damage dampener, Revenge, which means that her BP goes up by 1 every time she gets hit, and Slow Parry, which means that whenever she's hit as well, she inflicts slow on the opponent and drop their speed by 75%. Meaning that the opponent now could only act at the end of the turn. With those skills in play, she became very hard to knock down. There are so many abilities to choose from and so many ways to mix and match jobs, it's astounding. You also have the ability to summon special moves from people you've met via the internet or street pass and use them in battle. Or you can use a signature move and send it out to aid your friends. These moves are great in a pinch and can really help you out in battle. Of course, you can only use them once every 24 hours, but still, it's a godsend when you're in a pinch. There is also an ability called Bravely Second, in which you can stop the battle at any time and get the chance to attack for free. Anytime. During your turn, during the opponent's attack, anytime. Of course, you can only do this if you have sleep points, and you get one of those for every 8 hours your game is in sleep mode. Or you could buy them from the eShop, which is the only bad thing I have to say about this game. The microtransactions to get sleep points. I never once had to buy the points. I had the game in sleep mode so often, I was getting sleep points like nobody's business. Bravely Second was a nice mechanic. In my opinion, adding the microtransactions was the only glaring flaw in an otherwise great system. The final part I want to mention is the staggering amount of customization you have to the difficulty. You could change the encounter rate to anything you desired. If you just wanted to grind for money, you could set it to that. If you wanted to grind for experience or job points, you could set it to just that. Or, if you're like me and you're so over-leveled, you can just set the encounter rate to 0 and just walk right out of the dungeon with no problems whatsoever. It's a truly amazing aspect they added to the game. It's revolutionary, as a matter of fact. But if you're expecting to just play through this game with no problems whatsoever, prepare to be surprised, because the bosses will kick your ass if you're not prepared. Now, I could keep rambling on forever about the mechanics, but it's best that you see the gameplay for yourself, and I think it's about time we move on to our next topic. The difficulty ranges from easy to, oh dear god, make it stop. If you can predict well, you won't have any problems against the enemy and you can actually get a clean sweep in. However, as I've mentioned before, some bosses are relentless in your attacks and you have to have a mix of skill and luck to beat them. It's not a challenging RPG, but it's not an unfair one. It's not like the old school Final Fantasy games where if you didn't have the right skills or weren't leveled up enough, you were basically boned. Here, you can actually figure out a few good plans of attack. It really all depends on what you use and who you have in your party. I beat the game with a Swordsmaster, Spirit Master, Ranger, and Arcanist, but what you choose to fight with is completely up to you, and honestly, I feel like there aren't really any bad choices when it comes to the jobs here. Hell, if you're really persistent and determined, I bet you can beat the game with a group of performers if you wanted to. Actually, beating the boss with Poppin' Rock sounds pretty damn awesome. And metal as well. In conclusion, Bravely Default is a great RPG. It's not perfect, mind you. Sometime in the middle of the game, it starts to feel rather repetitive, even if there was a plot reason behind it. But overall, I enjoyed the game. The characters were fun, the combat was intuitive, fast-paced, and engaging. The story, well, nothing new, did put a nice spin on the classic Final Fantasy story, and it was a good return to form for Square. Let's hope they actually learn from this, but I'm not expecting much. Especially considering, you know, that game. Ugh. Anyway, when they make a sequel for this game, and I know they will, hopefully they will fix the small quips I have with this game and polish it to a mirror shine for an outstanding sequel. Now as for my final rating on the game, I'm not going to give it a number score because I feel that those don't really tell you much. Instead, I'm going to have 3 ratings set up. This may change later on, but for now, any game I review will receive either a good to game seal of approval, an average experience brand, or a never play this stamp embossed on it. And Bravely Default, where the fairy flies, is definitely good to game. Until next we meet, fellow gamers, this is Zer0 of the Legend Hunters, signing out. Later, guys!